Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We got a Big Ten battle on Friday night in college basketball on FS1 at 8 o'clock. It's the Michigan State Spartans headed by legendary head coach Tom Izzo. They're going on the road to face the Wisconsin Badgers in the Kohl Center, headed by Greg Gard, who's done a really solid job to continue the success that Bo Ryan had at Wisconsin. Greg Gard's had some years where the Badgers haven't been as good as they were during the Bo Ryan era, but this year is not one of those years where they're struggling. They're ranked in the top 15 right now at number 13. They got a 15-4 record. They're 7-1 in the Big Ten, and most people believe that Wisconsin has a shot as of now to possibly be able to win the Big Ten this season, even though Purdue is going to give them a tough fight. Purdue currently has 2 losses in the conference, but Wisconsin is a much better basketball team than they were last year. Definitely, they are the favorite to win this game. Right now, the ESPN FPI predictor has the Badgers with a 67.6% chance to win, and with good reason. It is very tough to win in the Kohl Center, but Michigan State's going to do everything that they possibly can to be able to knock off Wisconsin, because this rivalry is definitely a very heated one. Because when you look at the last 6 games between Wisconsin and Michigan State, it has been split 3-3. Wisconsin's won 3 of the games, including a win on the road at Michigan State 70-57, but the Spartans have also won 3 games as well. So both of these teams, they play tight games. This is usually a very competitive rivalry in the Big Ten. It's not like an Indiana, Purdue, Ohio State, Michigan, or even Michigan, Michigan State, but these two teams, they have a pretty good history with each other, and there's been a lot of solid games. Now, the Spartans on paper, they have not had the best season in the world. They're only 12-7. Most people have kind of forgotten about the Spartans after they were ranked in the top 5 to start the season. I really don't know why anybody ranks Michigan State early in the season in the top 25, because the way Tom Izzo schedules for his basketball team, they always fall out of the poll because they start racking up losses and then they fall out of the top 25, but they usually eventually find their way by the end of the season. Michigan State hasn't missed an NCAA tournament in like 25 years, so we know that Tom Izzo is a fantastic coach. He usually finds a way to get his team to figure things out by the end of the season. It's taken them a while this year. They are struggling. They're not having a great year, but if anybody can figure it out, it is Tom Izzo. They did start out with a bad loss to James Madison. Although James Madison has proven to be a pretty solid team, still that's a game Michigan State should have won, but that was their first game. Then they lost to Duke. See, that's a tough game right there. Duke is a very talented team. Jeremy Roach, Kyle Filipowski, not a bad loss for the Spartans. Then they beat Butler, lost to Arizona, another top team in college basketball this year. Then the Michigan State Spartans already lost to the Wisconsin Badgers this season at home. So that's tough for Michigan State that they were beaten on their own floor by the Badgers. You know that they're going to want to go out there and get revenge on them at the Kohl Center. Then they lost to Nebraska. That was a tough loss, but Nebraska's playing very well. Then they beat Baylor. So Michigan State does have a signature win. Despite their struggles this year and only being at 12-7 right now, that win over Baylor is definitely going to age well. Then they knocked off Indiana State, who's a solid team this season, beat Penn State, lost to Northwestern and Illinois, 2 teams playing fairly well in the Big Ten, especially Illinois, but they've won their last 3 games, so they're starting to figure it out. They've beaten Rutgers, Minnesota, and they squeaked out a win at Maryland. Yes, Maryland's not playing all that well, and they've been a disappointment this season so far, but as you can see, Michigan State is starting to get things going, and this is the time of year when they normally can get a big win or two, so Wisconsin is not safe. And when you look at the roster that the Spartans have, they've got a talented team. Tyson Walker's averaging 19.7 points per game. He's one of the best guards in the Big Ten. Then you got A.J. Hoggard in the backcourt as well, averaging 11 points per game. Malik Hall averaging 11 points per game. Jaden Akins with 10. This is a balanced team. They've got a lot of returners from last year. The only thing that Michigan State's missing from last year's team is Joey Hauser. Other than that, this team is intact. They're used to playing together, and they are starting to figure things out. Guys like Cohen Carr, Carson Cooper, Xavier Booker, they've got to get better. They're very young guys, and they have a lot of room for growth. And if they can get better as the season goes along, that will definitely help out Michigan State toward the end of the season, possibly be able to get into the NCAA tournament again and maybe even get a pretty decent seed in the tournament as well. So Michigan State, not a perfect team, but they have some continuity. They have some experience. Just need some of these younger guys to start improving as the season goes along. For Wisconsin, we know, well documented, playing well, ranked in the top 15. Greg Gard deserves a lot of credit for improving Wisconsin from last season, where they really struggled and they didn't even make the NCAA tournament. They beat Arkansas State to start the year, lost to Tennessee, not a bad loss. They also lost to Providence, but Providence had Bryce Hopkins then. Providence is unfortunately falling apart since he tore his ACL. Then they beat Virginia. They beat them down 65-41, knocked off SMU, beat Marquette. That's their best win of the season by far. Wisconsin being able to knock off Marquette, that's a win that's going to age very well come NCAA tournament time and should help them get a great seed in the tournament if they keep things up. Knocked off Michigan State already. So again, the revenge factor. We'll have to see if the Spartans can get revenge, but Wisconsin already beating them once, especially on the road as well. That will help them possibly be able to win against them again. Then they lost to Arizona, so Wisconsin and Michigan State have both lost to Arizona this season. Then Wisconsin knocked off Iowa and Nebraska, and they beat Ohio State on the road comfortably and knocked off Northwestern. Lost to Penn State, but they've beaten Indiana, and they squeaked out a win at Minnesota this past week. The Minnesota win wasn't all that impressive. Neither was the Michigan State win at Maryland, but it is very tough to win on the road in the Big Ten, so you got to cut it some slack. But when you look at Wisconsin's roster, why are they a better team than they were last year? It's because of A.J. Storr. He has been a revelation for the Badgers. The transfer from St. John's, he's their leading scorer, because these other guys, Tyler Wall, Steven Crowl, Max Klesmit, all averaging over 10 points per game, and Chucky Hepburn's averaging 8 points per game. They're all good players, and like Michigan State, it helps that they have that continuity back from last season. But A.J. Storr coming from St. John's and becoming their leading scorer, he is an athletic player, and he helps Wisconsin, who normally isn't all that athletic of a team, be much better off the bounce. They have a guy that can drive in the lane, and that helps create kick-out opportunities for guys like Max Klesmit, who is a really good three-point shooter. That's what has made this Wisconsin team so much better, and that's with a guy like Connor Essegian struggling. He was playing very well as a freshman last year for the Badgers. He's only averaging 3 points per game this season, down from around 10 points per game last year. It would really help out the Badgers if he would improve down the stretch of the season, but they haven't really needed his production, especially with A.J. Storr playing very well. So who do I think is going to win this game? This was a tough game to predict because, yes, on paper, Wisconsin's playing better basketball than Michigan State. They're at home. They're favored to win. So all I'd say that you got to pick the Badgers. But Michigan State with Tom Izzo, I really do trust Izzo to get Michigan State right by the tournament. And I believe that they're starting to figure things out. They've won their last 3 games. And while Wisconsin has been very impressive this season, they've also had a couple games where they haven't looked all that great. But overall, they are a much better team than they were last year. They are tough to beat at home. And Michigan State, they already lost to Wisconsin. I think that's going to help them come out there and play very hard to try to knock off the Badgers. They have won at the Kohl Center in the past. Tom Izzo always gets his team to play well, even if it's on the road. But I will go with Wisconsin to knock off Michigan State 67-62 in this great Big Ten battle. I think it's going to be a tight affair. Should be a very close game. Tom Izzo is going to have Michigan State playing better basketball in this game than they did last time out. I believe it's going to be a low-scoring game because both teams are very good on defense, and they're both getting better at defense as the season goes on, especially Michigan State. Wisconsin was already better at defense at the beginning of the year. But A.J. Storr, if it wasn't for his addition, this Badgers team wouldn't be as improved as they are, and I would have probably picked Michigan State at this point in the season to go on the road and win in Madison, but I'm going to go with Wisconsin with the talent that they have, especially with the addition of A.J. Storr. I think they're just going to be too much for a Michigan State team that is improving, but might not be good enough yet to knock off a tough opponent like Wisconsin on the road. So again, I am going with Wisconsin to beat Michigan State 67-62. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, whether you think Tom Izzo has Michigan State playing good enough basketball right now to get revenge on the Badgers and knock them off off in the Kohl Center to be able to get one of Michigan State's best wins of the season and to help out their NCAA tournament resume, or whether you believe that the favorites in the Wisconsin Badgers will take care of business at home and sweep the Michigan State Spartans for Wisconsin to stay atop the Big Ten standings. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.